I just wanted to steal your big moment.
I mean,
he was quoting Matthew McConaughey. How could you?
It's not fair.
I don't care.
It's never fair.
Yeah, that's life. Deal with it.
Hi, guys. I'm Brad. That's Mike. Kyla.
Hello.
We're Dallas Geek, in case, you don't remember us. It has been, 6 months now that we've been on hiatus. And that was totally planned and not at all because one of us, not saying who, I there's no way context clues will ever tell you, turned into a plague rat. Definitely no way for context clues to give you hints on that one.
Are we still flagged when we say certain words on certain social media sites?
Like Panorama or Panini?
Only if you start going down the QAnon hole.
Well, I'm just saying because I had my antibodies about a year ago now, give or take.
Yes, it was a year ago because it was our anniversary.
Yeah, so a little bit less than a year ago. So by process of elimination,
I didn't have antibodies.
you're not relevant to the show, so.
I can't cuss. Never mind. I'm gonna be nice.
So what you been up to?
Well, definitely not dying, that's for sure.
Obviously, you're here.
I mean, it felt like it a couple times, but I was not actually dying.
Oh, someone could
Or
also
so I
attest to
keep
that,
being
couldn't you?
told.
I mean, it could have been worse. You could have been hanging out in truck stop bathrooms and picking up other viruses.
Who's to say he wasn't?
I mean, that's true. Look at him.
Yeah. It's not an unfair assumption.
He's definitely a bottom.
Family
Power
friendly.
No,
Power bottom.
there is nothing power about you.
With that,
Oh, Lord.
Just think, anybody that's watching this over the age of 35 is probably like, what the hell are they talking about?
Over the age of 35 or over the age of 40?
You think people in their late 30s know the term? I mean, unless
Well,
they're
you
of that,
do,
unless they're
so-
of that community.
I'm pretty sure the term,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure the term's been around since at least the 80s. So I would hope.
That's true.
I would
That's
hope.
fair.
Well, depends on what kind of community they lived in. If they lived in a small podunk community, would they have known that term?
Yeah,
No, but they'd understand the concept because,
No, they probably would have used it, but they would have used it in a derogatory, almost flourish sense, I would bet.
well,
Almost.
it's the small podunk
Almost.
communities where the
I mean, it could
the
be worse.
truck
They could use
stops are
actual
prevalent.
slurs like.
Don't say it.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, with that,
Just he can edit it in post. It's fine.
No, we're live.
Oh,
Say hi.
See the red.
that means
thing on
we're
the screen.
that means we're recording.
Okay, let me.
If you look at this
Do
tab,
you see the live blinking numbers and
No.
then you got this one over here.
No.
it says live
and then
right there, big red box.
Yep. And then the red circle down here that says
Live.
no. Yeah, no.
I'll take your word for it, I guess. Anyway, what were you saying?
Anyway,
Yep.
so
It's been a minute.
it has been a whole minute at least. And we've tried to come back a couple times, then tried to die again, and then tried again, then
Try to die again.
it was a vicious cycle. But we're definitely back now. That is for sure. Just don't pay attention to the voice that sounds like it went through the blender a couple times.
Blender?
Definitely don't pay attention to that.
Razor burn, maybe?
Eh.
You good?
Yeah, I'm just here.
Spacing out?
But yes, we are back, and we're gonna start having some fun finally.
Hopefully.
Again.
Really?
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What is fun?
It's that thing that you don't have when you hit the age of 25.
Oh, I thought
Wait,
you
you
were
made it
gonna
to 25?
I think so.
Oh.
Almost didn't.
No, I mean you made it
Yeah?
to 25 before fun was something you forgot.
Oh, I mean, that's fair.
That's
Yeah, because you almost did make it 25.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we're back, and yeah, we're gonna be trying out a few new things, a few new formats.
Ooh.
Gonna be testing some new content out here and there. Maybe a new platform that we'll be streaming to. Don't know. We'll see. Assuming no new technical difficulties that we'll have to try to play with.
Or viral difficulties pop up.
I mean, there's monkeypox.
That is a thing now. You had that on their bingo card for 2022. Sure as heck wasn't me.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Not to go down the QAnon road too much, but I believe monkeypox is going to be a big enough of a deal as, I don't know, rampant voter fraud affecting the 2020 election.
That's I guess you just say QAnon.
Anyway, no, we are definitely gonna be trying out some new things. We're gonna be having some fun, and yeah, no, it's gonna be something. Definitely something. That's all we're promising. It'll be something, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Set
something.
bars low, overshoot them.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Something like that. All right. So, Brad, what brings us here out of mothballs today?
Mothballs, comfort of bed,
Yeah.
same difference. So we are going into summer, which of course means we're going into the season of streaming, or so
I thought
every
you were
other entertainment article wants you to believe. I think they've represented the idea of the season of streaming with the season of streaming services taking you and putting you over a thing and doing stuff with or without some other stuff involved.
Skirting
Well,
like the
that's
acceptable.
that's technically appropriate because I thought we were in the season of swamp ass with the humidity that we have to deal with
Language.
for 5 months out of the year.
I mean, I feel like
8
Swamp.
months out of the
I
year.
feel like Swamp Pass is family friendly.
Both of you, language.
I mean, it was in 80s Disney movies.
That's true.
It counts.
That's true.
There's also a bunch of things in Disney's 80s and 70s movies that are not acceptable anymore.
And yet they
Like-
still made it to Disney Plus.
Like penises in a castle tower.
I was on the VHS cover. It's fine.
Or, you know, the
I was more referring to a lot of like.
there was always the one in the actual scene in the movie
True.
underneath the robe.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Yeah.
more like Fantasia and things like that somehow made it and
Yeah.
didn't make it to Disney Plus, but you know.
But
I feel like that was for other reasons. I don't think that was an inappropriateness. I feel like that had to have been some kind of like licensing crap.
which is appropriate for what we're talking about today.
I mean,
Not the
maybe a
things I'm
bit.
referring to, but sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Cody, how you doing? And Jody, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
We will be trying to pay a little bit more attention to the comments. Hopefully, maybe, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But so yes, the year or sorry. Well, no, I'm going to say the year
Season
of
of
the
streaming.
Yes, indubitably.
This also implies the fact that there's like, adults have time off to actually do streaming.
That's true.
That implies time off.
I mean, I have some
A
in
day
month.
doesn't count as time off.
I have some in a month.
A day that is not a weekend does not count as time off. That is just a
I get
day.
I get one of those a week now.
I think
Sounds
Coach Belichick said it best. No days off.
I mean, if
I'll have Fridays off.
if you happen to work for somebody like Chase Bank or Goldman Sachs or a lot of any of the Fortune 500 companies, I think that's kind of their motto now.
It's true. It's very.
I would say or WeWorks, but that implies that WeWorks is a functional company.
My brother works for one of those.
Okay.
I mean,
All
he
right.
can attest.
I
Anyway.
can't believe that I'm the one saying it, but let's get it back on the rails,
I mean,
Are you feeling okay?
right?
Are the lights that warm? Like,
The season of streaming.
I feel like the season of streaming is actually very appropriate considering we are getting a new streaming platform just about every week, which feels about on par with how many new seasonal allergies come up every week. So seasonal.
Yearly?
I mean, it's all synonymous, right?
I mean, it feels like it at this point.
It's like
Kinda goes
herpes,
hand.
the gift that keeps on giving.
that's glitter.
Same difference.
Stripper glitter. Absolutely.
Same difference.
It's impossible to get off. Not that I would know.
Once again, same difference.
But no, you are
Not wrong.
horrifically accurate with that statement.
Bit of a bullseye.
I mean, how many streaming services are we up to now? I mean, obviously you got the classics. You got Netflix. You got Hulu. Now, thank you, Papa Mouse. You got Disney Plus. You have ESPN Plus. Thanks to the ever genius AT&T. No, sorry. they sold to Discovery.
Excuse me.
You have
But you would've thought-
HBO Max.
Who would have thought Discovery had that much money?
Surprisingly, they're the sleeper here.
Yeah.
HBO
But then
Max.
Discovery has their own streaming platform. You have Peacock, which is still a thing for some reason, because now you also have Paramount Plus. You have what else?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon. Well, how could I forget Amazon Prime?
YouTube
Prime,
TV.
the Bezos thing that allows him to literally shoot for the stars,
YouTube TV.
which was always just a fantasy for him, or I guess his pastime when he's laying down in his
Pile of
planetarium.
Which would explain why it looks like an erect penis.
Yeah.
Was that out loud?
Something like that.
So we're at 10 now, right?
Yeah, YouTube TV.
11.
Apple
No,
TV.
no, that's 10.
Yeah,
There's YouTube TV.
Apple TV is 11.
Apple
Yeah.
TV's 11.
Who else? We got to be missing somebody.
Trying to like go.
Sling. Well,
NBC.
Well,
Yeah, NBC has their own.
No,
Don't they?
Peacock.
That's NBC is Peacock.
NBC. is
Oh,
Peacock.
Hold on. Trying to like. Go
So I was
through
thinking
and-
Peacock was CBS, but
No, that's Paramount.
CW had one for.
technically they still have one. It's just online only and
Is it
no
12?
longer really paid for.
Yeah, that's
It's
the
CW Seed.
that. Well,
And,
that
and then,
Technically still exists.
And then
Those are-
technically DC had
technically.
one,
That
and then
one,
it
yeah.
failed. So.
both of those fall into the South Park meme, and they're gone.
And they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get technical, you have MLB TV, which you can stream all the games through
Yeah.
there.
Fox Sports has their own. Plus, technically, if you want to count the fact that Fox News and CNN both have a paid premium version on their website, they technically count.
No, they don't. CNN's is dead already.
No, that was CNN Plus. CNN has a different
Another
thing.
one.
Well,
Yeah,
no, CNN
just
Plus
like-
was supposed to be the
Try-
thing
what
that,
else?
that was supposed to be their online streaming. And
What else is on streaming though?
I
Trying to, like, go
don't
through
think
my
I
apps,
don't think
like-
MSNBC ever bothered.
Yeah. No, God, no. They knew their place. CNN didn't. But CNN's
Yahoo? Does Yahoo still have a paid for streaming?
no,
Yahoo?
Yahoo. What was it? Yahoo Screen, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that died years
Sure.
ago.
But it still exists.
And I feel TV Land has their own.
Yeah.
Oh, AMC Plus.
How could we
Yeah.
forget? Because of all the wonderful show that exists on there.
Show. And
Which one are you
and,
talking
and
about?
classic movies.
Is Preacher still on?
No.
Well then, the show they had.
I know we're not talking about The Walking Dead because that shit jumped the shark after season 1.
And we're definitely and
Yes,
nobody
yes.
would ever be referring to
It jumped the
Fear
shark
of
when the
Living
tiger
Dead,
came out.
because that never had a heyday.
No, the tiger was actually dope as shit in the comics if you actually read them.
In the comics, yes.
Anyway, back on
TV
track.
show.
Okay,
So
yes,
we
sorry.
have at least a dozen or 15, whatever, something.
Baker's dozen.
Baker's
At least
dozen.
streaming platforms.
Streamers
So-
dozen. We'll just call it a
and
streamers
more
dozen.
and more and more coming up every week. Literally.
Yeah.
So the question is, why? Every one of them have their own premium that you're paying. Every one of them have their own exclusive content because we can't be remember the lessons that we learned. At least studio execs can't remember the lessons we learned back in kindergarten to play nice and share.
No.
I don't share
So I subscribe to this thought, and this is how I look at it, is the executive heads these days are like first year grad students.
Executive heads. Sounds like a lawsuit.
They're like the grad students that are trying to say that communism's a good idea, but it's never been done the right way.
So
They
try to
just
prove
keep
themselves.
going back to the same thing over and over again because they think that they can make it work. When in all actuality, they're just doing the same thing that happened before them.
So I actually think you have it backwards. I think
Do you think the communists are stealing from streaming services?
no, I think the heads,
The other backwards
the,
that's in that conversation.
I think the studio execs and the heads of all these streaming platforms are the ones that got way too into Ayn Rand back in school and believed that the only way streaming services would ever be worthwhile is if they could get their cut out of it. So when they were dissatisfied with sharing their cut with a third-party platform, they figured, well, it's only me and mine that count, so I'm going to take all my content back and go build my own sandbox. And unfortunately, that leaves the rest of us looking at what used to be back when Netflix and Hulu were the only game in town, and studios would actually license their shit to other people, and start wondering where the hell did that go?
Yeah, but Ayn Rand also preached worthwhile goods and services.
There's a difference between what Ayn Rand preached and wrote about and what the hardcore fans of hers took away.
That's a fair point.
It's kind of like the people that got way into a lot of other literary, we'll say staples of college, and then just got way too into it and read way past the author's intent. Now, you can make the argument about whether or not Ayn Rand intended the exact thing that her fans actually read into it or not.
That's true.
Conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
But
Is it?
I mean, yes. That is literally its own dissertation. But
It's a fair point. But to that point,
yes.
So
I mean, it's the bullshit about it's the Star Trek argument. It's the argument of Star Trek fans that say Star Trek is the perfection of socialism or communism because it gets rid of money, and we're all working towards our all of our betterment. And it is, and that is what the evolution of technology does, and it versus what the studio that created Star Trek says and still says today, which is no, it's a great idea, but where's our money?
and just not to get too far off topic, but who made Star Trek relevant again?
Apple TV?
No.
Well, it definitely wasn't Paramount Plus.
No. He saved Star Trek and he saved Star Wars.
Oh.
You're welcome, nerds.
I mean, I feel like saved Star Wars is giving him way too much. You know what? Screw it. This is a PG.
Maybe I should have
hard
sat between the two of
PG-13.
you.
No. You don't get to use the one F-bomb.
Fine.
You don't get to use it.
Saying
Can
that
I use it?
saying that JJ saved Star Wars is giving him way too much damn
You're right,
credit.
because it was in such a great state after Revenge of the Sith.
In fairness, from a storytelling point of view, it actually was.
Was it?
From a revenue generating point of view, it had seen better days. But
almost because people weren't going to watch the shitty movies that were being put up on blue screens. Sorry, cinema screens.
I'll let you stop bouncing on top of Papa Abrams' lap for a minute, and well, we can get back to the topic at hand. The fact is, yes, we're all getting screwed by all these different streaming platforms.
and here's the funny.
I want to go back and look at my budget and see how much money I spend on streaming services.
Well, that's the thing. Like, go back and look at it. They're all $5 to $10 a month. You have them all for different things.
Netflix increases their rate every year.
Theirs is what, up to $12.99 now, I think.
No, it's $13.99 if you are. No, sorry, it just bumped up to $14.99 if you are doing 4K 2 screens, I believe.
Yeah.
That's right, because they have their tiers now.
Yeah, and Hulu is a lot more than that if you get the live TV version.
Which you don't do the live.
And if you don't do the live TV version, it's still
it's $15 if you get Hulu with no ads and Disney Plus and ESPN Plus.
But at least
you're welcome.
But at least Disney has the
I think
at least Disney has the common courtesy.
I think there are only like 3 or 4 streaming platforms that still offer a $5-6 option anymore.
Which
and I say
TV?
still because the ones that offer the $5 to $6 option are some of the newer ones on the street.
But you know, Disney
Apple TV does $5.
But Disney has
plus Funimation.
Yeah.
But Disney has...
Which we didn't even talk about the animation
Well, that's
services, which is a whole different realm.
There's also...
Well, all one of them.
Oh, yeah, one of them.
Oh, no, Funimation has their own, which is separate from streaming.
Well, Funimation was bought by Crunchyroll.
Yes,
and
but...
so they still have, like, all
but
their old
Funimation's,
shows.
Funimation's and Crunchyrolls are still considered two different subscription services.
For the next, 2 months.
Are they actually merging?
Yes.
Oh,
Well, no, I
nice.
think Funimation's going to stay open for, like, all the old stuff. All the new stuff is going to be on Crunchyroll.
And if you want new content, you have to create a new Crunchyroll account.
Whatever.
But you
anyway,
get a discount if you were...
streaming is
Anyway.
lovely.
But yes, so
Not wrong.
this harkens back to a time, maybe a more archaic time. Maybe a time way back when.
Are you showing
Definitely
your
a lot
age
less
here,
sophisticated.
or-
Yes, if
A much less sophisticated
a
time.
much less sophisticated time.
As a very...
When Clintons ran the world.
Don't they still?
That's fair.
Two on
But
the
Brad,
board?
I seem to remember a time, and just go back with me, for some of our younger viewers that
I'll just be over
that
here.
don't know. There was a time, Brad, way back in the times of having to remember people's telephone numbers and basing what time you came in on when the street lights turned on.
Remembering telephone numbers implies that you weren't writing them down.
That's true.
After a point, I just wrote most of them down.
That's true. That's
and
fair.
only remember like 2 or 3.
But
Phone books are so important.
this takes us back to a time
And
when
speed dial.
And why it was always so offensive from movies back in the 80s and 90s when you'd see a character go to a phone booth, find the number they wanted, and rip the page out of the phone book. Because how many numbers
Screw
did
you.
you just screw other people out of
Uh-huh.
singing?
But this harkens back to an age when, if I remember right, CBS, NBC,
What you getting at there?
I
What you getting at there, Grandpa?
I feel like there was a time when all of these platforms were a channel, maybe 2, maybe even 3,
Are
but they were
you talking
taken.
about some ancient magic?
They were taken almost like they were individual strings, and then put together.
Well, I feel like you really are going back in
then-
time because the level of archaic bullshit of not being able to choose the show and episode you want to watch.
Immediately?
That's
Not that far back.
That's a time when
Not that
I don't
far
think
back.
any of us want to think back.
Not that far back. But
You're
maybe
talking about the time of dial-up?
maybe back to a time where you
The
had
noise.
I don't know, maybe 100 different channels. Maybe some movie channels, some sports channels,
But movies
Oh,
were
so
always
what,
extra.
the early 2000s?
where you could, I don't know, maybe compile all of these
Even
things
mid
together and pay for them with one payment.
But there were ads.
What would you call something like that? I swear.
Bullshit. I'd call it bullshit.
Over what we have now?
Financially, no.
Okay.
Experientially, absolutely.
For
Oh,
those
no,
who
God,
are a
no.
little bit too young to understand, he's referring to the idea of cable TV.
Zim wants us to check the YouTube live chat.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
hello.
Oh, Sim. It's Sim.
Oh my.
But yes, David, I am referring to the days of
Yes,
cable
yes, I am.
television.
You.
Really, where I paid for and got everything all in one thing instead of having to have
Yeah, but you're also
80,000
talking
different
You're also
logins?
talking about a time where I didn't have DVR and couldn't record a show, and if 2 shows were competing, I
Bullshit.
had to choose.
Cable had DVR.
Not until like the mid 2000s.
Right, which is almost 20 years ago now. Yeah.
Yeah, but that still means that you had to wait for it to turn, for the show to come on, for you to record it. You couldn't go back and find something to watch that you didn't already record.
I mean, that's true. That's very true.
If I missed it, I had to wait either for a rerun or hope
Also,
that maybe a
how-
friend had it recorded to go bum it off at their
We're
house.
not even going to bother having the argument about how much unseen, useless content that you had with cable because, I mean, that's still true today.
Very true.
But
Here's the one thing you got with cable. You got consistent content. Yes.
I'd say that's debatable.
You think that's debatable?
Oh, yeah.
Over having to
I guess
wait
what
2.5 years for a season of Picard that basically is completely and totally underwhelming for 8 episodes?
I think that has a lot more to do with studio executives not knowing what to do with the streaming method and how to treat it.
Let's also be honest, there was a whole
versus
that's world crisis that happened in those 2 year span.
Well, even before that, we would still have to wait over a year for new stuff.
Oh, the back scratches.
Yes, that's funny.
Sorry.
The days of cable TV.
Okay?
So here's the thing: when we had cable TV, you would get consistent content across multiple platforms for a duration of 6 months. 26 episode show would run over the course of 6 months. Take about a month off between you would have your Thanksgiving break for about a week or two. You would get a couple episodes. Then you would have about a 4-week break for about a month, or a 4-week break. And then you would come back and you would run through. Maybe you get a week or two for spring break. Maybe. And then you have your home stretch of like 6 episodes.
So it would still go ahead most times and air during spring break.
But now, so taking your examples into account, Netflix. We just got new content of Stranger Things for the first time in 3 years. And that was their biggest original content creation.
Oh, so that's a Netflix issue. That's
an everything issue.
So, well, no.
The only one that's doing it consistently is Disney Plus, and they've gone back to the weekly episodic formula.
So I would say it's a Netflix issue because Netflix set the tone for streaming. Netflix is the one that came in and decided that it was about content dumps and just content blitzing in order to be able to create a content library without any level of forethought for marketing and really paying attention to the viewer's experience.
Yeah.
That was Netflix and what they chose to do because they didn't have their own content library.
Sure.
I understand the reasoning behind it. Why they do it today after they've made a library, that's a lack of creativity and ingenuity on their part.
Right.
The problem is everybody else copied their model because they were the originators. And unfortunately, what you were left with is a whole bunch of copycats in the industry that couldn't think for themselves and are banking on the shitty nature of this content dump and lack of marketing to push people back to cable eventually and just be able to say that, well, streaming failed rather than giving it a legitimate shot.
Well, if everybody's going to take that model of content creation, then of course it's going to fail. But what is the biggest content creator going to now? They're going back to the cable formula.
I guess if you want to argue that too, like how long has it been since we got a new Mandalorian episode?
Right, but what if we had in its place? Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
We get Cassian Andor's series that drops next month.
We're talking about consistency, and there's consistency with content being delivered, but it's not the same content because you're just talking about Stranger Things having 3-year gap in it.
Right.
But think about all the other content that was released by Netflix in that time period as well.
What was it?
So if you, there was many things that were dropped, unfortunately.
Cuties, right?
So
yeah.
Look here's.
I didn't say it was good, but it was consistent, like we were talking about.
So, because we do need to be able to get to the problem with too many streaming platforms.
Right. Right, David?
The issue with...
He doesn't feel good, so his filter's gone.
So the issue with the streaming method and the approach to streaming platforms right now is that you are...
By the way, David.
You have so many studio execs who are either convinced that the traditional way of making shows for TV is its own thing and therefore cannot be the way that streaming platforms do it. Or they are intentionally not doing that in order to try to create this new type of experience and create a lot more content, because they know that streaming you can put out shorter seasons, which means you have the ability to put out a lot more types of content and see what really gets audience's attention. The problem is nobody is either understanding or willing to choose to try to do a blend of do the recording schedule of a normal weekly release at a shorter season for streaming platforms with fewer overall shows that you're putting out every year, but you're able to put out higher quality episodes, and then take more time in between the release of new shows to really push marketing to keep the momentum of the shows that you just spent all that money on in circulation until the next season comes out.
Disney's doing it.
Not as well as they could be. And that's the thing. Like, if it's a weekly release with your typical 24, 26 episode season, you have the weekly release that acts as its own marketing with the commercials.
Of course.
But if you cut that in half and you say you're only doing like a fall release, and then you use all and you let the weekly releases of that be able to be their own marketing, and then you spend all of spring trying to market, like actually consciously market back to the fall show while spring shows are going on, so people are watching the new spring shows while going back and rewatching the fall shows. You can keep flip-flopping,
well, of course,
keep momentum for both. Nobody's doing that.
Well,
and I think it's a conscious decision. But when you do come back to too many platforms, even if they did that, nobody could keep up, and you're still overpaying for what you're getting.
But that's not totally true, because Disney's literally tying show into movie into show into movie into show into movie with the Marvel formula. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be
we got Chris from the amazing, where is he? Mike?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mike?
What?
Mike?
I'm brain farting right now. Help me.
Madness.
Thank you.
The wonderful Chris Mettler from Madness.
I was trying to read,
Jumping
and
into
then
the comments
you
over on
poking me
Facebook.
and saying my name over and over didn't help.
Hi, Chris. But yes.
'Cause it was yes, 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 can't think, yes, yes.
No, you
All
you
three
are
of us have ADHD, and you're gonna like take that approach with him trying to come up with an answer.
absolutely.
But
Like,
but,
no.
but here's the thing. So Disney is shifting to it.
Kind of.
But technically, it's also not totally fair to say that they haven't done it correctly, because
So
we haven't been able to get content for the last 2 years because of.
So that's
What can I say?
That's
what
not
word am I
entirely-
allowed to?
Panini.
What word am I allowed to use here?
Plug
no
gear.
no. Let's go ahead and say the you can say the Covey Pokey.
But I don't want to turn myself about afterwards.
But isn't that what we've
Because
been doing
the-
for the last 2 years?
Because the Covey Pokey did that to me.
No, Chris, you're absolutely right.
Oh, I'm dying inside.
The originators do kind of set the bar for success, and success does kind of redefine what everybody believes and everybody tries to duplicate. That's
I mean, that's
absolutely true.
that's 100% fair, but at the same time, it's not an accident that every new Marvel series that comes out gets higher streaming numbers than the one before it.
No, it's not. But
And it's not like the numbers are going down; they're just going up
So
and
the
up.
look,
Hawkeye.
I
and up.
will.
Send it to Hawkeye.
I hate.
Well, Hawkeye had better numbers.
I
than whatever
hate
came out
giving
before
the
it.
man credit.
Did it?
I genuinely hate giving the man credit, but for all of his many flaws, Bob Iger actually had one good thing that he understood, which Bob Chapek and the execs of every other friggin' major studio don't get. He understood that entertainment is about storytelling, and storytelling, it does not start and stop with the content you're making.
Yep.
Storytelling is the marketing. Storytelling is the advertising. Storytelling is the PR. Storytelling is the lore that you create around the studio and the properties that the studio creates. And Bob Iger, as awful as he was because of so many reasons,
allegedly,
he understood that, and nobody else does, which is sad because I don't want to see the streaming industry get taken over by an army of Igers.
Well, here's the problem.
That would be horrifying.
But here's the problem, though.
But
when you have all of the different platforms, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to have their own business model. Everybody's going to have their own content that they're going to put out. Everybody's going to have we're going to do this right no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Chris has absolutely right here in the comments.
Yep.
Comics suffer from the same issue.
Yeah.
You got one or two lines that get of stories that get success, and everybody tries to copy.
Look at
movies. Same thing with Mad Max. You set a trend, and then everybody tries to copy.
He can 100% attest to it.
You're absolutely right.
Look at when DC relaunched the New 52. How many comics got canceled within 6 months?
Yeah.
Like, if I remember
or
right,
when DC
was like
launched
8 or 10
the
comics.
current version of the current run. Which, I mean, how many times have they done a soft relaunch since the rebirth?
Yeah. But no, he's 100% right. But then at the same time, what does it come back to? Does it come back to does it come back to the fact that as of right now, yes.
Yes. We are. But
depending on if any of us get
keeping all the comments.
anyway, sorry.
Well,
keep up with the comments. Yes, we are going to be at Expo.
Provided none of us get the Kofi Pokey again. Jesus.
I mean, unless you want to come up with a better name.
I have a couple. Are they going to get me flagged by YouTube?
Yes. Don't even. No.
Should I do it?
Is China anywhere in the name?
One of them, yes. The
Then
other
probably.
The other one is Wuhan.
No.
Then yes, it's absolutely going to get flagged.
Will it get us flagged if I do it in the voice?
Oh,
that'd be worse.
faster. It was get us flagged faster. Please.
But
South Park can barely get away with that anymore.
Well, no, that's not true because Disney doesn't own them yet, so they can still do whatever they want.
I mean, granted, they're on streaming now, so I guess they
why
can
do you have to add the
technically
word
do whatever they
"yet"
want.
to that?
Because they made the joke themselves.
I mean, also yet because technically Disney's buying everybody, so it's only a matter of time.
No, they made the joke themselves.
Either
Like
Bezos will buy them, or the mouse is going to buy them. But in the end, we will all belong to one of two of them. Because I think when it all comes down to it, and all the rest of society is burned to the friggin' ground, we are still going to be in a Terminator-style apocalypse between the mouse and
you are disrespecting
I guess
no.
phallus is
he's
appropriate.
disrespecting
The walking phallus.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he's disrespecting internet culture. Did you know the Ultimate Showdown? Who came out on top on that one? Mr. Rogers in a bloodstained sweater. So
how would you know?
What do you mean? How do I know?
His sweater was already red.
Not always. No, in that one it's green. He doesn't always wear
But
red.
if you're
change colors.
I guess if you're putting it to that
in the older
way,
episodes, yes.
If you're putting it that way, I'll take the sociopathic homicidal mouse over the walking
CEO entrepreneur born in 1964.
I was gonna say the
Jeffrey.
Does he really count as an entrepreneur though? Honestly,
yes, because
calling calling him an entrepreneur, entrepreneur, I guess is fair versus calling him a self-made entrepreneur. That would be because he's about as self-made as Blood Diamond Man.
The movie? It's a great movie.
No. Blood Diamond Electric Man.
Elon?
The underground tunnels in LA.
I don't know what the hell you're talking
What
about.
are you talking about?
Elon Musk talking about wanting to make a whole series of underground tunnels under LA for the future of transit.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
And his family totally not making their fortune off of blood diamonds. South Africa.
No, he made it off a Tesla. Come on. It's like everybody saying that. It's not like everybody saying that Shaq got rich playing.
I'm sorry.
He got rich playing in college.
He made his money off of Tesla. No, he made his money off of our tax dollars and laundered it through Tesla. There's a difference.
It's not laundered if there's actually Teslas driving around.
It is if every one of them is made at a deficit, but you know.
But then how does he still make money, and how does the company still make money?
Exactly. That's what he's getting to. So, okay, hold on. Let's
I highly doubt that. But anyway.
Let's refocus back instead of.
I'm sure you don't. But
Anyway,
we're not a conspiracy.
but this goes back to
this isn't conspiracy. This is federal budget.
well, but this goes back to what I was saying earlier.
Politics.
What are we doing here again?
Well,
Totally not politics.
Well, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, you have all of these services that are all trying to get their cut of the pie, that are putting out content, which is great. If you want to put out your own content, that's fantastic. That's what people have been doing for decades and decades before.
Yeah.
But the reason why they started
Thanks, YouTube.
well, but the reason they started moving away from cable was they were bitching about the cable companies costing too much and charging too much for a cut of the stuff and everything and this and that. And how is it any different? So you're driving up the cost of your streaming service now.
Mm-hmm. Well,
why?
It's the American school system homework argument. But my class only gives an hour of homework a night. Just like my streaming service only costs $10 a month.
Hey, my class
That's
is not
expensive.
Well, right. No.
But you know, if you add that one and that one and that one and that one and that one together, you're doing homework all night.
So why don't we go back to a time where we paid for all of them and got
Fair.
all of them?
Fair.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say I don't side homework anymore because I know it's not gonna get done because. Well, my students also have usually a million other responsibilities on top of homework, so... Yeah,
plus, I mean, you know, if you want to be technical, school time is school time, not school at home time.
Oh, I know.
Like, eat shit. Sorry. Not you, but teachers that actually think it's okay to assign, you know, work outside of the classroom.
Well, because I also have to work outside the classroom, so...
Right. Well, are you paid?
Salaried, not hourly.
So you're paid.
Trust me, I get it.
Yeah, kids aren't.
Paid is relative.
Paid implies that you're not going into debt, spending all that money on the supplies that you don't already given. But continue.
I'm not gonna keep up with my receipts, so it's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But no, that's why I don't typically require homework because of so many other responsibilities outside of it. But
Yeah.
it's not wrong that I've seen other teachers that are like, well, I only send like an hour of homework.
Well,
yeah,
if you have 8 classes in a day,
well, sure,
8 hours of work now you're having to do after school.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with streaming services. You know, you can try to make the argument that, one streaming service only costs this much money.
Right.
That's not a lot. But yeah, considering if you're just taking legacy titles into consideration, the titles that are transitioning from cable or from network television onto streaming,
yes,
and sequels, you're still saying that you are assuming a minimum of 4 streaming services.
Of course, and that's my argument.
Minimum.
Is you're paying for these services, but are you getting an equal return on your investment?
No.
No, God, no.
No.
A streaming service at what? Let's say $10 a month.
Yeah.
12 months. That's 120. Are you really getting $120 worth of content over the course of 12 months?
But I mean,
I'm getting more content out of what I was paying my cable prices though.
But you know, the alternative.
No, God, no.
The alternative solution
minimally is $60 a month. So
but you're getting content.
But how much of that content am I actually watching though? Just because I'm getting content.
How much content are you watching right now on Netflix or YouTube TV?
Does
or Apple
watching
TV?
in the background count?
No. Like actually sitting down and actually putting time into watching content.
I mean,
I get what I
if
want.
the modern workday didn't last as long as it does now, you'd probably be able to enjoy it a lot more. Because, I mean, even your average workday outside of the show, because surprise, surprise, the show totally does not pay currently. So, this is not our full-time job.
We're working on that.
Trying to.
But
we have ideas.
But, you know...
We haven't just been sitting around doing nothing for the last 6 months.
No, that's part of the things to come.
Yes.
But no...
Hashtag soon.
Can you put in that...
What?
Well, I was gonna say, can you put in that the more you know rainbow?
Which reminds me, that requires me to have already preset graphics, which I'll totally be doing more of later. But it does remind me, guys, since we're on the topic, please, let's just go ahead and get ahead.
Shilling?
Let's get ahead of the curve here, so that when we can finally have a chance to start making money, we'll have a better shot. Don't forget, if you're not already, to please subscribe to our channel. Do not forget to like and follow us over on Facebook.
I think it's like here.
You know, and keep the Android happy. That is his official title these days, right?
No, he's a lizard man.
Oh, fair. And don't forget to subscribe over on YouTube, like and share, hit the notification bell in order to be able to be notified when we go live or post new videos over on YouTube. And of course, you can always check out the audio for all of our shows over on
These things.
Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and the one that I've not been able to add the graphic for yet, Facebook Podcast, which apparently it exists, but it's only on mobile because Lizard only understands lizard, not people.
Well, no, because he hasn't been able to steal anything to.
That's fair.
Also true.
Modify and then.
That's fair.
Passes it down. Oh, him and Gates have that in common. Huh.
I mean, in fairness, all of Silicon Valley has that in common. I mean, Black Turtleneck always had that in common too.
That's why
but,
Elon's not from there.
Actually, he isn't from there. Elon's from South Africa.
That doesn't make it better. Also,
well, are you saying that you have something against him because he's African?
How many people are from Silicon Valley?
Let's not like.
How many people are actually from the Valley?
I mean, he doesn't even.
Honestly,
well, that's
from
fair.
the Valley, like I'm from Dallas, like.
But he's not even headquartered out there.
Yeah, but
anymore.
you're more likely to be from Dallas than you are from the Valley.
Are you?
Yeah, but where's Tesla headquartered now?
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Anyway,
this amazing state.
Is it amazing though?
Yes, God, yes.
Is it?
We were our own country once, absolutely.
Have you listened to our governor lately?
I've listened to.
Anyway, not to get political.
Not to get political. But.
With that, yes, no, definitely going to be trying to monetize.
Yes.
But what were we talking about before we started?
Well, speaking of monetizing, we were talking about the fact that we pay so much for all the different streaming
so what I
services.
was getting to was that, like, so typical, let's just say, like, on a conservative side, mind you, because it's a lot more than this now. Cable TV was about $60 a month on a low side. On a low side.
I don't think cable TV's been $60 a month since like 2010.
Exactly. It makes for easy math though. So let's just say it's $60 a month times 12 months out of the year. That's $720 that I'm paying for cable TV. Not including taxes,
if you have
fees,
AT&T or
things like that.
Frontier, you're probably paying at least $100.
Yeah, so if you pay $100, that's $1,200 a month. $1,200 a year that I'm paying.
Sure.
Versus if I'm paying $5 a month.
Well, nobody charges $5 a month anymore.
Apple TV does.
Okay, so you're only paying for one.
No, but I'm saying just for example for Apple TV.
Sure.
Apple TV, pay $5 a month, 12 months out of the year. That's $60. I feel like that is a much better spent $60 than in comparison to the $1,200 for.
But you get all of the content for the $1,200 that you get for the $60.
So with the $1,200 though, there's only like parts of it that I'm watching. Versus with my streaming service, I can pick and choose of like this is what I'm interested in.
Well,
so therefore I'm paying this much.
But you would have to have multiple streaming services.
But here's the problem: the ideal solution is, even if you want to go back to the cable model, is a solution that none of the studios would agree to today. Because you're still saying that you're going to have a third-party service, for the sake of argument, let's say Hulu, that is going to be the gatekeeper of all licensing, that they then are going to have to only take a small cut of. And even if you were to go in and say, well, hey, Hulu is already partially owned by 3 of the major streamers, so why don't we go ahead and just require that all the big streaming platforms consolidate to one, either at Hulu, as Hulu, or like Hulu. They all have partial ownership.
Sure.
So now they all have a vested interest. Even then, you're still left with a scenario where none of them get the same cut of the pie that they're getting today from their own streaming service, because the only way that works is if that consolidated streaming service is going to be going for at least 120 per person, even factoring in that we all know streaming services today have ways of making money beyond
of
just
course, and that's
monthly subscription.
Well, and that's that was my next
but
argument.
it won't matter.
Is are they actually
Because
charging?
those are the numbers they care about.
Well, right, but are they actually even charging a fair rate for their streaming services?
Is that I don't know if that's.
I think
Can you
I
look
think
at
they
that
are.
objectively?
I think they are. I don't think that most of them are paying a fair rate for what they consider acceptable overhead to manage a streaming service is. Because I think so many of them are willing to overpay for the sake of basic content and service management, for the sake of trying to win the streaming war,
Right.
when it's very, very clear the average cost to own and operate a streaming service today is unsustainable. Disney's choosing to continue to overpay for everything they do with it, knowing that in the long run, they'll recoup it when they beat out all the competition, and they're left as the only game in town.
So
in theory.
So here's why I ask. So CBS Viacom reported that in the year of fiscal 2021,
yes,
Paramount Plus revenue surpassed $1 billion.
That's revenue.
Right.
That's not profit.
Well, right. But are they actually generating $1 billion worth of content? No, they're not even close.
No, but it also doesn't answer the question.
Every mother would argue
does the amount of money they're spending to manage their platform and content match the value they are getting out of the platform and content?
Well, the value.
I would say the answer is no.
But are you talking the value of the consumer, us, or the value of the creator, them?
Both. Because the problem is, every new streaming platform has an exorbitant upfront cost to start a streaming platform.
Of course.
Which is why it's stupid that you have new streaming platforms every other month.
Of course.
But even once they're established, they are still very clearly overspending to produce the content they're making. Because when you can see a show like The Mandalorian, or see a show like Lord of the Rings, or like Stranger Things, or Queen's Gambit, or any of the big names that have actually earned their reputation, and see how many hundreds of millions plus a single season costs them, at least as far as what they're willing to report, and compare that to what the equivalent cost of a regular network show of theirs would cost, and then cut down the number of episodes to half and redistribute that amount per episode accordingly, the amount that you would be spending per season for the traditional model versus the current streaming model, the streaming model still blows that budget out of the water.
Sure.
Which means they are still severely overpaying for the content that they're producing.
But they're also, that's also on them, because they're now putting out less content than they could if they were staying on a cable-based system.
No, because if you take out reruns, if you take out filler episodes, and you take out regional licensing for older shows that's getting their first run in a specific market, what you're left with is still about the same equivalent per season numbers of releases per platform versus per channel. But you just notice the difference more for streaming because you don't have all that extra filler. You don't have the reruns like you do on cable.
Well, right, but 22 episodes.
So it's a lot more noticeable.
22 episodes over a year stretch as opposed to 8 over a year stretch?
Yeah. Because if you if they were to push marketing to try to push people to go back and rewatch the season that just ended, they staggered the release of their content, so they weren't trying to do like 5 shows at once for a drop. They would be able to last a full year of content, and it would be a lot less noticeable.
So another argument that I would make is that think about on the cable format, you only have so many time slots available.
Of course.
So like on one network, you'd only have, in theory, like what, 10 shows that you could do in a stretch.
Well, so 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Of course, across 7 days.
So 21.
Okay.
Versus like, so that's over just for, like you said, like a 6-month span or something like that.
Sure.
Streaming allows for like 20 new shows be dropped once a month.
Right, and that also comes into another problem, which is the quality of the content.
Well, yes. No, I don't disagree there, but if you want, you said paying for like the content that you're getting.
Well, right.
You're getting a language. I almost dropped the F-bomb there. You're getting a crap ton of content.
Yes. Well, right, but I'm also getting crap quality.
But
someone
you're getting crap quality on cable.
It's your crap, but not someone else's crap.
Well, sure, of course. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm not turning around and waiting like a year for the next season of something. Oh, but then, oh no, wait, hang on, just kidding. Netflix decided to cancel this after one season.
Is that worth it though? Because to go back to the older model, if you know half the episodes for a given season do not matter to the overarching plot, and they're already
go back to that filler issue.
Filler,
but filler
irrelevant, low quality.
But filler
junk.
wasn't used nearly as much as a plot device or an episode device as you say it was.
Yes, it was.
It most certainly
I think
was.
you have an overly rosy perspective on network television.
So most of those shows, think like the big shows I was watching. Like I loved watching Friends. I loved watching ER. I loved watching CSI, Monk, things like that. There's not too many overarching stories that span multiple seasons or even just the season. Most times it's only over like a 5-episode stretch of those 26 episodes.
Right, and then you get another 5 episodes.
Not always, though, because like for example with CSI, you go through like episode where everything is fixed inside a nice little 45-minute window.
But you're also forgetting.
But it's not overarching.
But does it have to be?
Well,
that's filler.
That's the problem.
That's not filler.
Yes, it is.
A different form of storytelling is not filler.
You're forgetting the most important difference here. Network television, by and large, regardless of the genre, tends to be procedural. So
point A to point B.
No, a procedural, as in same formula every episode, just different story specifics.
And
so whether it's a police procedural, a detective procedural, a medical procedural, it's all the same general plot points, just change out the details. So that's why there wasn't a need for as much filler, because the procedural style automatically gives you the ability to not rely on filler, because you're literally recycling every episode the same plot.
Like
the problem is that, like, streaming, when they cut back on the number of episodes, most of them also tried to move away from procedural narrative and tried to go for episodic narrative. And the problem with that is now filler becomes more obvious because you don't have the procedural style to cover it up. And so if you want more procedural shows, that's great. You can do that on streaming. Nothing says you can't. Hell, when Lucifer got switched from CW to Netflix. They kept the procedural for the most part. But if you want more episodic, non-procedural shows, by necessity, you either cut the number of episodes severely, or you have to be okay with filler.
But you still have filler in these streaming shows.
Yeah, because you had so many people bitch and complain about the fact that, why am I paying all this money for a streaming platform if a season of the show that I want is only 6 episodes? So they say, okay, fine, we'll bump it up to, we'll bump it up to 8, we'll bump it up to 11 episodes. And then all the creators for those shows that were saying, but we've been trying to make this as tight and efficient as possible. We we were trying to make this a 6 to 7 episode season. So now they have to put in filler because they have a mandate from above that says hit that 10 to 11 mark.
But if they're running whatever they want at their own pace on their own streaming service, they don't have to.
No. There's a difference between what the studio wants and what the individual showrunners want.
Well, sure.
And that's where you're
but the studio
you're misplacing the ideas. The studios focus on what makes the most money and trying to react to viewer reaction. The showrunners are trying to tell a good story and trying to find a way to hopefully balance that with the ever-changing demands of the studio.
Well, right, but the studio is still making the mistake of saying that you have to do it this way or that way.
Yeah.
So what's changed?
Nothing. That's the problem.
Right, so why not go back to the way it was before?
Because the showrunners are trying to do something different. They're trying to move away from the procedural shows so that they can try different types of stories that they can tell.
But they're really not. They're not moving away from that.
Well, they're not because they're not being allowed to for the most part.
Well, if you're on a streaming service that's paid for, then you have more freedom in theory to do whatever you want.
The studio has more freedom. The showrunners don't.
So then the problem is with the studios.
Yes, 100%.
Right.
The problems with the studios, which is the same problem that we're having with why we have so many different streaming platforms. Because the studios don't get it. The studios don't understand that having streaming as the method of presentation not only changes the method of presentation, but it also changes the way you tell a story. It changes the way you market a story. It changes the way you run the studio. It changes everything about it, and they don't want to, which is why we're in this problem in the first place. Their lack of creativity and lack of imagination is what gives us more filler episodes for shows that shouldn't rely on filler. Is what gives us more streaming platforms when we shouldn't need 100 streaming platforms. It's causing the problems in the first place.
100 streaming
so we shouldn't have to say that to compensate for the studio's lack of imagination, we just have to go back to the old method of show.
You go back to the old method of show writing because you got better quality.
Only because the studios were used to that method of...
Well, no, because they were beholden to it, because if they put shit on the air and nobody watched it, then they would lose money.
You realize saying that don't make the studios adapt to the times and make the audience stay shackled by the studios' lack of imagination is the same argument as saying
but what's
technology has advanced so much since my parents or my grandparents were kids, but my parents and my grandparents can't keep up, so therefore everybody in my generation should never be allowed to play with the new technology because they can't keep up.
No, that's
it's the same argument.
No, what I'm saying...
It's literally the same argument.
No,
You're saying these studios can't keep up with the creativity, so why don't we let the shows go back to the way they were?
That's not at all what I'm saying.
Explain.
Do I get to talk now?
Yeah.
Because I was fucking trying to.
Your language.
What I'm saying is that you have now... Essentially what you have now is studios have branched off and made their own streaming platforms to create content that's exclusive to their own streaming platforms.
Mm-hmm.
At a rate that is slower than it used to be, at a quality that is slower than it used to be, and they're charging you money separately to do it.
Yes.
You're buying into so many streaming platforms that it's literally the same thing as paying for cable.
Why is that happening in the first place?
Because they're quote unquote using technology to branch off and give you a better experience when they're not giving you a better experience. And it's not because they're using the old model, it's because they can literally do whatever they want because you're still going to pay them for that content that you're getting at a slower rate and at a lower quality. So you are paying into giving them money when they don't have to give you consistent content. That's the problem. You pay for Paramount Plus for a year when you get content that lasts 6 weeks. So what are you paying for those other, what is that, 52 minus 6, 48? 48 weeks? What are you actually paying for?
Wait, 46.
So is your solution...
46.
So what is your solution? Is your solution to go back to more episodes to compensate for the lack of value?
My solution is going back to a cable-based system where you pay for everything and you get everything in one inclusive package.
But if the content you're getting stays the same quality and is still the same rate of production, still the same things that we're seeing today,
it wouldn't
how does that fix it?
It wouldn't be, because you would have to be stretched out for putting out content for a longer set. I can't just because
make more episodes per season.
Right, but still at the same high quality that you used to.
It's going to cause production costs to go up if you're having to do like 20 episodes for a season.
You're right, but they did it for how long before we got to this point?
So
you wouldn't be able to get The Mandalorian. You would never be able to get Stranger Things.
So I think
you absolutely could.
Do you have any idea the difference in cost per episode for The Mandalorian versus the cost of an episode of Bones or Friends or whatever show?
But we didn't have limited series events on cable back in the day. We didn't have mini-series events back in the day. It's the same thing.
Not if, but those miniseries didn't have multiple seasons.
Yeah, they're only kept to like.
That's a fair argument, but then you could stretch it out for a limited series event.
I think
so what happens with stuff like Stranger Things? Multiple seasons.
Well, that studio would still be putting out content, and then they would give you Stranger Things, and then they would still be doing this and this and this, and then give you Stranger Things.
But Netflix still is putting out content between seasons of Stranger Things.
What? What are they putting out that's to the quality of Stranger Things over the last 3 years?
Queen's Gambit.
For one season.
Your premise is flawed.
Right.
Your premise is flawed because the question should not be.
If you're trying to argue Big Mouth.
If you're comparing.
Big Mouth is garbage.
If you're comparing Netflix.
Tell it to people who words.
If you're comparing.
I'm trying to keep it clean,
Sure.
If you compare Stranger Things to a miniseries, then you can't try to say, well, what other shows on Netflix are of the same quality as Stranger Things. You have to make the argument of, well, if Stranger Things is the equivalent of a miniseries, then what shows on Netflix are of the quality of your average network show?
Nothing.
So
really,
yeah, that's why they have reruns of Friends, Bones, all the other network shows that people are paying for.
Your average network show has become a lot more in line in production value with reality TV. And that's what a lot of streaming has. There's a lot of reality TV that they put out new content for. So technically it's on par with the same quality.
So I think kind of like listening to what you had to say and what he had to say, no, I might have misunderstood something, so I apologize on your part. But he was talking about how like they were very systematic and very procedural with how each episode was done. Like you could pretty much tell like, okay, by the first episode break, we're going to have like, for example, a crime show. We're going to have our crime occur that we have to investigate by the first episode or even before the theme song drops.
Yeah. And then
by the first.
Hi, Aaron.
Hey, Aaron. So then by the first commercial, it's going to have this mark, and then by the next commercial break, it's going to have this mark, and then by the third commercial break, we're going to hit this mark, and then after the third commercial break, before the episode ends, that's when we're going to have our resolve.
And that's how the controlled production comes.
We've been doing that for so long. But I think now that we're starting to branch off, and I would argue that streaming has blown up in the last 5 years.
10, but yeah.
10
blown up, not existed. So become popular. Like there's a difference between it's existed to
because Netflix and Hulu were kind of our grandparents here, if you will, and our other streaming services such as like Apple and then ESPN Plus and then Disney Plus and then etc. have blown up in the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so let's take a couple things into consideration in the sense of having to move away from that format and not knowing how to move away from that format to properly produce, like you've been mentioning, quality content. Okay. So kind of stuck in the mindset of, oh, let's hit this procedural thing. Because there's a couple of times we're 3 episodes into the new Stranger Things season, just by the way. Those episodes, while being an hour long each, a little over an hour long each, still have a couple of those procedural marks that they're hitting throughout them.
More than a couple, but
it's happening, right? But in those 5 years, we have not been allowed the opportunity to move away from it, which is what he was bringing up, right? There's also...
Whose fault is that?
There was also a pandemic in there. So, as opposed to branching out...
Alleged pandemic, but continue.
You both had it!
And we're both still here, isn't that weird?
Okay, can I drop another F-bomb?
Nope.
You can hit him.
I don't hit, though.
But that's the one thing
that's domestic... We live together. That turns into domestic violence.
If
I hit him, that's a different conversation.
And if Amber Heard has shown us anything, domestic violence is okay.
It is the one thing that the MPAA and
just the MPAA They dropped
TV
the second A.
censors, the MPA, and TV network censors can all agree on. Violence is more okay than language.
What's the joke from the South
So
Park
technically, you can hit them all you want, and YouTube should be perfectly fine with it.
movie? What's the South Park movie joke? Horrible graphic violence is okay as long as you're not using any dirty words while you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, horrible graphic violence and the occasional bit of sexual innuendo. But never actually showing sex because that gets into the naughty territory.
Because sex is bad, okay?
Thanks, Mr. Mackey.
Especially for a woman.
But right? Terrible. But more or less, so think about in the last 5 years of what it's blown up. Take 2 years out of that because there was a giant pandemic and definitely was trying, like, what do you do during that time?
Yes.
Besides what you know. That's only been allowing for 3 years of potential growth.
Mm-hmm.
But when he was mentioning studios, basically being like, oh, this is what I know, so stick to it.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Like,
I mean, I get what you're saying. I do.
so it's still very the having original content on streaming services while it's been around for a little bit, but because of all the bumps in the road, it's still very infantile. Like have
Yes.
have studios been pushed to a point of having to learn something new and do something different yet? Has there been enough outcry of it?
No, but my argument still stands. They're not putting out the amount of content that warrants what you're paying for.
I think they are.
So I think the amount of content is there. I think your upset is still the quality of the content.
No, it's the amount too.
Well,
I
no,
have-
because they if you take into consideration all content,
Of course.
if you take into consideration all content that is produced per platform,
Thank you.
or even across all platforms, they per year put out more content across the board and by most platform standards, by individual platform than any single or combined set of TV channels do per year.
Some people would argue. So Netflix is, how much would you say Netflix is a month currently? Or I guess the minimum.
Didn't we say it was the
like
minimum?
14,
The ad.
15. Oh, minimum.
The ad one is
like
like 7, 8. The one with ads.
No,
Is
they
that the one
haven't.
you're talking about?
They haven't
Netflix
implemented
has-
ads yet.
Yeah, Netflix hasn't
going
done
to.
ad yet.
They're going to. That's what it is.
It's gonna be like you said, like 7.
Yeah, I think
So
that's what
even
I think
if-
right now the minimum is like 10 or 12
Well, I'm trying to 7 times 12 is what?
for like 1080 single screen.
4.
But anyway, yeah. So you're saying
Either which way. So Netflix last year alone, it's saying that in the third quarter of 2021, video streaming giant Netflix reportedly released 129 original content titles worldwide,
Okay.
it's titles, not episodes.
No, yeah, that's titles.
up from 125 originals released in the same time period of the previous year.
Okay, and how many of
So-
them? And what was the duration of those?
So that's
How
what,
were they
that's-
broken
that's-
up over?
That's
Doesn't
all the
matter.
article says. So most
absolutely
times
does.
Really? Because you're saying that the value of the streaming service is based on the amount of content they produce. Well, Netflix is
Well,
producing
and
more
the-
content
well,
than anybody
And the duration
ever.
which is why you have
So-
things like. Go ahead.
I would say the problem though is like if they drop 129, even if they dropped all 129 at the exact same time, and let's say each one of can I borrow your calculator real quick? Because I'm not going to do this math in my head because I'm about to get some big numbers here. Okay, so if they drop 129 new shows,
Sure.
and each one has on average, let's say the 8 that we've been bringing up.
Yeah.
Okay, and each one of those is about 45 minutes long because that's
Okay.
about the average of what a normal Netflix is. Sometimes they have the smaller ones like Retsuko,
30
which
minutes, 22.
I adore Gretzko being 22 minutes long,
Sure,
but let's just
sure.
say average of 45 for those guys.
Yeah.
That is 46,444 minutes of content dropped at the exact same time.
Right.
Like, that is 774 hours of content delivered in one fell swoop.
Okay.
There's no way I can sit there and binge, like, as much as people want to, binge 774 hours of content in that one day.
No, of course not.
That's content
But
that I
then-
can easily spread out over times, because 774, even then, that's 32 days
And how many days are in
of
a year?
straight content.
How many days are in a year? 365.
That's 32 days if I'm streaming it back to back to back to back to back to back.
Of course.
At
Nobody's
work?
going to do that.
No.
Yes, of course.
Nobody's going to do that.
Right, but
So
I'm
they're
not.
still. Go
And
ahead.
then they don't
Right.
market the stuff they put out, so
Right.
you don't even know most of it's out there.
But how many of those 125 things were actually things that were watched by a mass amount of people?
How many things on network television is something that mass amounts of people actually care about?
I mean, we used to have a thing called Nielsen ratings that would actually, track that.
when did Nielsen ratings ever actually represent what people cared about?
Well, viewership.
You understand Nielsen ratings have not been an accurate depiction of audience sentiment or true viewer ratings since the 90s.
No, the 2000s.
No, 90s. Because once the 2000s came around and cable
DVR
became a bigger thing and DVR became a thing,
Well, sure.
Nielsen has openly admitted they could not track proper metrics for that, but they kept on pushing the same metrics they always did, which were not accurately representative of what actual viewing audiences were doing.
Yeah, but the only problem with that argument is that it was still used for marketing. It was still used for
because everybody's obsessed with
it was still used
having their metrics that they care about, even if those metrics mean nothing.
Well, right. So then Friends wasn't like one of the most popular shows ever, even though the Nielsen ratings were through the roof for it.
I think Friends counts because there were more than Nielsen ratings to be able to back that up.
No, there weren't. You know when Friends went on the air?
Yeah.
When?
Saying that it's one of the most popular shows ever is an accurate statement because Nielsen ratings are not the only metrics that prove that it has been the most popular show ever, because in addition to the original viewership numbers,
Right. Which were massive.
you also have DVD and Blu-ray sales.
Yes, of
you
course.
have streaming sales. You have streaming platform watch
But
numbers across multiple
right,
platforms.
but during its original television run,
yes,
taking all of those things out, it was still one of the most watched shows ever during its run.
yes.
Same thing with Seinfeld.
When did Friends end?
When did Friends end?
What year?
2008, 2009.
Yeah, which was before the big boom of DVR and cable dominance.
Right.
Which is when everything really started getting skewed more. And because their numbers predated all that, there was a legacy titles like Friends had a little bit easier time being tracked because Nielsen was already targeted in to the right segment of the audience versus a newer show that came out in the late 2000s that would have already been spread across all of the disparate places to watch that they weren't as well understanding of.
Well, you didn't have all of those disparate places to watch in the late 2000s if streaming just blew up in the last 5 years.
No, but you did have DVR recordings, which were not have never been taken into consideration. You had Blu-ray and DVD sales. Yeah, Nielsen does not pay attention to recordings.
I don't know if there's a way to track that. Is there?
No,
because it's still recording through the box.
No, they've openly admitted that they pay attention to live viewing numbers because there's still
fans.
people
Right.
that watch that pay attention.
So
but
the math I was doing
Anyway.
was talking about in terms of like amount of content. So you said that's 32 days of content. There's 365 days in a year. If you take consideration that out of a 24-hour period, I need 8 hours of sleep. Usually, the average person works 8 hours a day. Okay.
Sure.
An hour out, taken out for lunch. That leaves me with like 7 hours of free time.
Okay.
To not include like other responsibilities, things like that.
Okay.
Even just using 7 hours, that's then turns into 111 days of content.
Okay. Right, but but then again, that also comes back to
if you really want to be able to get picky about shows getting canceled and not be able to have long enough time to deal with the long-term fans of a given show or be able to allow them to become fans in the first place, Fox never had that problem. Fox was okay canceling new shows constantly.
NBC was really the one that did it, though.
In the end, people complained about that, but they accepted that as the norm. And
kind of like what Netflix does now.
Does it a lot more prevalently, but it becomes a lot more prevalent to people's minds,
right?
Because they put out so much. So
and then
it's different between, hey, we have 5 new shows this season and only 2 made it to next season, versus, hey, we have 127 new shows this season and 3 made it to next year.
Which is what Netflix is doing.
Yeah, but there is a big difference as far as what people are going to see, because you're more likely to have seen all 5 of those new shows on network television versus even half of the stuff on Netflix before it got canceled.
So it's a waste.
It is a waste, but ultimately the value of your monthly cost to you comes from the shows that you watch season to season.
Right.
That's never how studios have valued it. Studios value what they get from cable or what they get from streaming based on how many people will sign up to pay through that method. And they've always gone off of the idea that a new show is just as valuable to viewing numbers as a returning show.
Well, right, except for when you just keep giving us new show after new show after new show, then you have people leaving droves.
But then eventually they come back when a new show comes on that they want to see, and then they
they don't. No. They don't come back. They're just set to auto renew your monthly subscription.
No, there
so you just completely
people
forget about it.
They'll go out and subscribe to a service for one show. As soon as they finish, unsubscribe and then resubscribe for the next season, and keep on doing that.
I did that
and
with
that
HBO
fluctuates numbers. That fluctuates numbers, which means they go back and the numbers still say that just because we've canceled X number of shows this season, the numbers still show that the value
so then what's
per
the solution?
subscriber is still there.
So what's the solution then?
The solution is tricky because the solution comes back to us as the viewers trying to find a way to be able to force the studios to do what we want. And what we want is for them to care more about individual shows and put more effort into letting people know about new shows, giving those new shows more time and attention to build audiences in the first place. We want a variety of show types and show methods and all the stuff, and that's not what we're getting right now. But ultimately, unless we can find a way to force studios to do that, there isn't a solution, because the studios are still the ones in charge. Just like they were in charge with cable, but we were more willing to accept how screwed we were getting then because there wasn't another option. Now we have a bunch of options, but we realize that none of those options are really any better than the others. So now the illusion of choice is given to us rather than the forced upon one and only method. And now that illusion has been shattered, and we realize how screwed we really are.
Well, is it an illusion, or did we...
It's an illusion because we went from, you have one method to be able to watch all shows, so you know that you have to accept the cost, to now we have multiple streaming services, we can pick and choose which one we want, and we can pick and choose the cost, to now we realize we don't have a choice, because if we want to be able to see all the stuff that we want, we have to pay for multiple, which means that illusion of choice is gone because the illusion has been broken. The illusion was always there when it was, even back when it was Netflix versus Hulu versus whatever, because ultimately it didn't matter which one you chose because licensing was flip-flopping between the two year to year. But now that illusion's gone, which means the cost is more understood about how much we're spending and how much we're getting screwed for what we're getting. So the illusion is gone, and we don't like it.
Yeah.
We are, as Tyler Durden pointed out, we are the disenfranchised bastard children of a generation raised on TV. Technically, that's exactly what happened. The catch is we finally realized we're those bastard children, which when before we were, we thought we were loved children. We didn't realize we were unloved bastards.
Papa Mouse gave me a new show.
It's true.
That's the difference. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So no, the only way we fix it is by finding some way to make the studios do what we want. But first, all of us as a joint viewing audience have to agree on what we want, which is never going to happen. Which is why they're going to always have the control, which is depressing as hell.
Well, no, you just don't buy them.
I want my content though.
And what happens when we don't buy them? What do you do
we're a
for
society
your
of instant
entertainment
gratification.
in the meantime?
Video games.
Books.
Or book. Yeah.
Video games is really the better solution to multiple streaming platforms when now you have multiple console platforms with DLC and season passes.
Well, yeah, because most video game platforms now are shifting to cross-platform play, so it doesn't matter what system you buy it on.
Really?
Yes.
Most?
That's only for multiplayer.
Well, right. But
I think he's worried about single player because I won't be able to get my Xbox and play the new Breath of the Wild 2 when it finally drops.
well, that's not going to be on Xbox.
And
That's what
even
he's getting at.
cross-platform isn't fully cross-platform because it's going to be limited to specific platforms.
Sure. So buy the system that you want, play the games that you want.
But what happens
So
when
buy
you're
the
dealing
streaming service you want to watch the service you want.
what happens
Well,
when
right,
you're
but if
getting,
they're not giving you, like
console
you said,
exclusive titles
no,
that you want?
you will. They want to make money, don't they?
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is,
But I can't play
if you
Horizon
have
Zero Dawn on the
console
Xbox.
exclusive titles that you want,
Sure.
now you have to get multiple consoles.
Yes.
And if that particular title comes with required DLC that you have to buy or season passes,
Well, you don't have to.
right now you don't have to pay for the season pass.
Right. You don't have to buy DLC.
Today, you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
But you didn't used to have to pay for multiple streaming platforms either.
Right. So don't.
So what happens when gaming catches up to streaming, and so now you
Don't
have
put
to
that
pay.
evil out there.
Well, it's not going.
EA exists. It's not like it isn't
Don't put that
already
evil
out there
back
Well,
there.
exactly. EA exists, and they haven't even done that yet.
yet, because they have been testing the waters with all the other things they've
Well,
been
of
doing.
course.
But wait till season passes become a required part of the game. Wait till DLC becomes. Oh wait, DLC for main parts of the storyline already are a thing.
No, they're not.
Destiny 2.
To get an incomplete
Well, that's
storyline
a
without DLC, to have
MOBA.
DLC that
That's
is
a
arguably
specific
part
style of game.
that is arguably part of the main story. That's putting
You're
out.
talking about like expansions for like MOBAs and that kind of stuff.
No, I'm saying if you have
World of Warcraft's
if
been
you
doing that
have a game that
Or not MOBA,
DLC
an MMO.
completes the main storyline, and without it, it feels like an incomplete storyline, then the DLC was never optional to begin with.
Name one.
Mass Effect.
So Mass Effect, which one? 1, 2, or 3?
Yes.
So you don't have to.
And a lot more games now. Hell, there's the argument for Batman, the Arkham series.
For which game?
Well, what was the last one that came out?
Night?
You could make the argument that the DLC for that completes the overarching story that, technically could feel like a complete game without it, but once you see it,
Not
you
technically. It was
realize-
a complete game
you
without it.
realize that it wasn't the full story.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was.
Really?
Yes.
So it feels just as whole in your mind without any DLC
Yes.
as if you had all the DLC.
Yes. 100%.
Good for you.
I mean,
That's not everybody's opinion on that. And that's becoming more and more of a thing, especially for EA titles.
well, considering the fact that season passes and DLC are
Anyway,
separate stories from the actual mainline story.
not always. But
Also, for example,
Okay.
like the season pass for Tiny Tina's Wonderland is all four
Anyway.
of the DLCs that are going to be dropping.
Right.
we are now way
An hour.
hour and a half. So we are
Oh.
way past time. So here's the deal. Ultimately, it does not matter what any of us want for streaming services because we are going to get screwed by them regardless. Are there solutions? Yeah. Will any of the solutions ever matter? No, probably. But we'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see.
I have hope.
Anyway, we are over time, and we've got to call it. So, Mike, last words?
I'm good.
Okay.
Good talk.
Mike's the cable lover here. So,
Are you the cable lover?
good job, Grandpa.
No, I'm just
Devil's advocate?
sure. Let's go with that.
Anyway, with that, guys, thank you so much for joining whatever portion of this you've watched. We appreciate it.
Love you.
And we will be testing a lot of other things and seeing what happens. So, yeah. Until next time.
Yeah.
I'm Brad. Kyla, Mike, Dallas Geek.